Hi, curled up in the sunshine on a beautiful sunny afternoon. And today's it's a little bit of a doozy what I want to talk about. And my working title for this one has been The Gift of Grief. So, um, I've had many opportunities to explore and heal grief, namely the 3-span year where I had 8 different friends, family, and acquaintances die suddenly, completely unrelated accidents. And wow, it was intense. And it's been a number of years now, so I feel really ready to be able to share, especially because two things that have happened in the last little bit, in the last less than a month even, is one, I'm currently healing a snowboarding injury, and that's been an interesting setback. And the other reason is because I guess it's about a week ago, my car was broken into. I had they smashed 2 windows out and took all of my gear while I was packed up for a 1 week snowboarding trip. Um, Now that I think about it, maybe I wasn't ready to go on the snowboarding trip anyway because of the injury. Anyway, that's a lesson for another time. The lesson of slowing down, I guess. So I realized that whenever I was processing the literal loss of material things during the insurance claim and whatnot for the theft, that I was able to put a lot of my lessons into action and into practice, like all of the things that I've learned from processing like big grief, right? Losing friends, losing family, like that's death, that's massive. So um, I want to share the things that I've learned. I mean, the main thing about grief for me is to just, you gotta go with it. There's no there's no known path through, there isn't wayfinding and a map, and it's going to be, for me it's been different for every single experience, for every time that I've been through this and I've been able to heal. Specifically, the first person who died within that real doozy of a 3-year span was a friend of mine on a climbing trip while we were hiking out, and I was with her while she died, while her spirit left her body, and that was intense. So what I found, as well as it compounded, not only grieving her and grieving that event, because no one's day is supposed to go like that. We were going to go for a climb, we were going to drink a beer at the top, we were going to hike out, we were going to go for dinner, right? End of story. One of the other things that I was grieving in that time was also this change in identity, to become the person that people know was with this absolutely beautiful friend while she died. Like, that was this whole other identity that I felt I had then. I had to adjust to that. So I found that grief comes in, like, pretty often, actually. And it's been exploring this break-in that I had a couple weeks ago, and the abrupt change of, I'm going to go on a road trip. Nope. Now I'm not going to go on a road trip. And P.S. I have no jackets, no technical gear, my duffels of clothes, everything just gone. And so part of me at first almost didn't recognize the grief, right? Because it's just things and I have insurance. And no, it's a change. As I've explored grief, I find that grief actually comes in, even like, there's micro grief or nano grief, if you will, even the point of being like, you're at the grocery store and see a really short lineup and you go, yay, and you go over to the grocery store and you're on this up, and then the cashier puts the laying clothes sign down and it's like, poof, you're crashed down from that up. So there's like a nano grief that I feel is important just to recognize and to honor that, because grief, like, it's a mother of a thing to process. And maybe the loss of what I had created in my mind of being this beautifully short, efficient, I love efficiency, lineup that's going to get me out of the grocery store and through my errands and onto my day, like, maybe that's going to trigger some other grief about something else that I'm still processing and I'm still working through. So it's important to be mindful of that and like try really, really hard not to take it personally. It's a tricky one. There's something that I've learned about way back in the day whenever I first started dabbling in like a meditation practice. It's my very first seated meditation down in Vancouver with Bernie at Semper Viva, and he took us through this practice of I am. And so he took us through like, I am. So if I am my job, I'm not sitting there and I'm like, yeah, I'm a job, sure, kick-ass project manager. He says, so if you lose your job, do you cease to exist? It's like, no, that's a good point. And I am. And he took us through the relationships that we have in our lives as well. And like, I am a husband, a wife, sister, boyfriend, girlfriend, what have you. When these relationships end, whether it's a relationship in a romantic sense or the loss of someone who's no longer living here with us now, what changes about us? And it's this like, it's way bigger than the grocery lineup, right? It's huge in terms of, well, who am I? What is my identity? And one of the things that I've been working with specifically for working through death, it's a topic. Basically, is, okay, death is fucking final, right? Shit. So what can I embody and what can I take into myself and adopt as a practice that will bring some aspect of that person with me? So what can I, as a way of coping and a way of processing the shift, the grief, the loss, what can I do to embody that person's memory and have them live on in some aspect of me? It's huge. It's huge. And just because I can sit here with my cup of tea and the cat running around and the sun shining doesn't mean that this is easy. Just because my project manager brain can break it down into bullet points does not make this easy at all. Just because I can comprehend what I need to do to get through grief doesn't necessarily make the passage of time go any faster, right? So cut yourself some slack. Just be kind and be tender and be good to yourself while you're working through grief, especially the big stuff. And one other thing about why I've referred to this, as I've had notes and learnings and little, just not quite post-it notes, but kind of like all sorts of little documents where I've been working on this article about this topic that I've been referring to as the gift of grief. And why I see it as a gift is not some sort of what's referred to as a spiritual bypass, right? Like I'm so spiritual, I'm untouchable, right? I'm so blissed out, I'm so high on life, I'm just so happy to be here that I can't feel sad or angry or sorrow or anything like that. Like, bullshit. too blessed to be stressed, no bad days, like those sorts of like you see a sticker on a car or something. Like it's just, I feel like it's not healthy. It's so good to be able to process what we're working through. So what I see now as the gift of grief specifically is, well, it's gratitude, actually. And in the simplest way, I'm just happy to be here, right? I don't know how much longer I'm here for, hopefully a while, but I don't know. And instead of being gripped by fear about that, or allowing that to control my life, or for me to try to control my life, to keep it in this this strange sort of conditions on life so that I'm not able to be exposed to any risk and therefore I'll live forever or whatever. That's not a way to live, right? I'll talk about all my thoughts on risk management and living in another video. Can't escape from that as a project manager. So anyway, I love looking at things in life in terms of the duality that exists in so many things, like yin and yang, light and dark, the tide comes in, the tide goes out, like all of these things that exist in balance in nature. That's the sound of the cat playing, if you can hear that. And so when I was working through grief, that span of 3 years where it was just like one after the other, and I wasn't able to come up for air from the grieving period of one person, and I get the news about someone else and just right back down again. I said, what is the opposite of grief? What can I meet this with? What could I balance out? You know, like when my black coffee is too hot, I can put an ice cube in it and immediately bring it to a better temperature. So what was the drastic opposite of grief? It's gratitude. So even recently, coming up to my car, having 2 windows smashed out, all this glass on the ground, and just processing what's still here, what's gone, I was immediately grateful that my snowboards were still there. Like, it's something, just something, right? It softened the blow just a bit. And gratitude for being here. When I hang out with my brother in person, like he's one of my best friends. Like no one's known me for my entire life but him, really. And so when we get together, we end up, at least one night during the visit, we stay up so late and we talk about everything. Why are we here? Like just we go deep. And so late last year, whenever I was visiting with him in person, we were sitting across the couch from each other, and it's, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., we're still going. And I had this little click of a thought. I just zoomed out of the conversation for a second and realized, oh my God, one day this isn't going to exist. Whether it's my brother and I in our current state of health and mental health that we can sit and talk about these things, or whether it's just that we're both existing here physically and materially, we're both still alive. And I felt like pre-grief almost, right? Like, look, I'm almost tearing up. Like, I love him so much. And the power of that, whenever I zoomed back in and shifted my perspective back into the now and sitting there with him, and it was so much sweeter. In fact, we stayed up for another couple hours. I mean, he's more of a night hawk than me. So at first I was thinking I should go to bed, I should rest or whatever. And whenever I had that little shift in perspective of zooming out and realizing the absolute magic of the moment of sitting there with my brother, geeking out about all topics, everything, we stayed up for another couple hours. Why not? Like, to stay in the moment, to be able to extend it. And I love realizing in the ups, in the really, really sweet moments, just how sweet they are and that they're not forever. Nothing is forever. And I've found the strength in understanding that for the next period of grieving, because it's gonna have to happen, like it just will, right? Statistically, that I have strength that I can draw from, and I have so much to be grateful for. And I know from also my work that I've talked about on my videos about love and the Love Project is that I need to be tender and understanding with myself while I process and while the grief processes through me. So thank you for joining me for a cup of tea this sunny afternoon. It's definitely a topic that's very close to my heart, very dear to me, and very on my mind. You'll find the power as you process through grief. You'll come out of it more strong. Oh God, Jess, you'll come out of it stronger, more resilient. Just store up those good times. Bake in that sunshine when it comes out. Living here in Squamish, it's pretty special when it's sunny and it's not July. And you're gonna be okay. And I'm totally open and comfortable talking about this with anyone. Losing 8 friends in 3 years, including family as well, and being with one of them, well, she died from a very abrupt accident. Like, this is part of my identity now. So, I understand. And you're going to be okay. Thank you for listening.